Well, your most intriguing work is a play called The Revenge. It's famously the radio drama without words. Now, how on earth did that come about?
Frustration, I think, because I think I was in the rep at the time. And one of the feelings I had about radio, much as I loved it, I thought people talk too much on radio drama. Never stop talking. And that radio is not just a medium of words, but a medium of sound. So surely it might be possible to write something where actual sounds take a greater part in the proceedings. I mean, the classical thing is if you have a horse riding, you crack two coconuts together and it's a horse, you know. And I thought, well, let's just try a little experiment, see if we can tell a story without any recognizable words at all. So I did. And it started off, I thought to myself, stared out the window, right? I stared out of the window and thought, now what sound cannot be misinterpreted to a listener who can't see anything? And I thought, well, what about a fridge door with a milk bottle inside and somebody shuts the milk, and that the sound of the door shutting plus the slight rattle of the milk bottle can't be anything else. So that was a start. So why would anybody want to do that? Well, actually, can I tell you the first minute of this story, how it worked? We did it on location in a system of sound which was very suitable called binaural sound, where the action is all around. You, the listener, are always at the centre of the proceedings, and the sounds and noises or whatever it is go right around you. And it's a system whereby that if somebody's behind you as the listener, you actually want to turn around and you think he's there, but of course he's not. And I played the central character. Outdoor scene of birds singing, kids playing cricket or something in the back, in the distance, a motorbike going by, something like that. And suddenly a siren goes off. And it's all in the distance, and right close to, in the centre, me in fact, I go, startled. A moment later, dogs barking and people shouting. There are 11 people in this play, but none of them say any recognizable words. So it's people shouting, dogs barking, and getting nearer. And I know what that is. I start running through the undergrowth, running, getting exhausted. And the dogs and the warders, which is what they are, coming nearer and nearer, and I panic just with my voice and so on, breath. And I approach a stream, a river. So you hear the river, and people are getting nearer, the water is getting nearer, and I wade into the river, so it's getting wet all through. I had a wetsuit on to do this, and the microphone in my ears, actually. And I take a deep breath, underwater. And as I'm underwater, holding my breath, the dogs and the warders come past and fade into the distance. And I burst through the water. My lungs are bursting by this time, water dripping and so on. And I listened. And the dogs are in the back there. And I breathe a sigh of relief and climb out of the river. Now that's about 4 minutes of the thing. It ran 24 minutes, something like that. And it was done twice in one night on Radio 3. And there was a talk to introduce it by the director, Glyn Dearman. And they had a discussion about it. And I couldn't follow what they were saying. I mean, it was so in Radio 3 stuff. I didn't know what they were talking about, really. And then, this is the key thing, then some years later, it won a prize, this play, The Revenge.
The Ondas Prize in 1979.
In, of all places, where? Barcelona. Oh, Manuel.
Well, actually, it's quite interesting looking at the paperwork, because obviously we store all that with all the tapes and everything, and it does reveal you recorded on a farm, in a pub, as you say, a motorbike, swimming pool,
and
use real dogs and dog handlers. I mean, it's quite a feat, really.
Yes. There was Glyn Dearman producing it, and Lloyd Silverthorne, who was a whiz at radio and sound and so on. And it took, I think we recorded on location for about a week.
In Reading, according to the paperwork, and Archway in London.
Yeah. Oh, yes. That rings a bell. Yeah.
So it's a good job we keep notes of all this.
Yeah.
You see, it's stashed away.
And people say, how long was the script? How many pages? This was 1 page. 2 pages, I think.
Well, we've got a question about The Revenge posted by our listener, Ivor Thirst.
Yes.
Great name. I'd like to ask Andrew if he's ever considered writing and performing another play like The Revenge. This is, in my humble opinion, one of the best performances that has ever been transmitted.
Oh, isn't that nice? Well, it was a look no hands exercise. I mean, it was an experiment, and it certainly was used. I don't think it has much scope. You can't do half-hour plays on them, and you wouldn't want to. The actors are necessary, but it was often used subsequently for training producers and directors on radio.
OK, well, it's here in all its glory, The Revenge, written by and starring our special guest, Andrew Sachs. And please do try to follow the advice about listening without distractions if you can. And before we hear it, you mentioned it just now, the special introduction on that very posh Radio 3, recorded for broadcast in June 1978.
The play you're about to hear, The Revenge, is an experiment in terms of sound. It's a play written for radio without dialogue. The play's been recorded in binaural stereo, and to achieve the full effect of binaural stereo, you should listen on stereo headphones plugged into your stereo receiver. You can enjoy the play in ordinary stereo through speakers and indeed in mono, but it's important that you listen at the correct level, and if you're listening in stereo, that your speakers are correctly balanced. Now, I have with me Ronald Mason, head of drama radio, and Andrew Sachs, author and principal character of The Revenge. We're going to talk for a few minutes about the idea of doing a play without dialogue, and we hope that during our conversation you will adjust your set so that you can listen under the best possible circumstances. Now, first is Ronald Mason, and he's going to explain something about the history behind this play without dialogue.
Well, oddly enough, it originated from an interview with Tom Stoppard. Tom Stoppard, oddly enough, because for him words are tremendously important, and he has an enormous power with words.
Yeah.
But he was talking about radio drama and suggested that it ought to be possible to write a play with more sound effects than dialogue, where the sound of the things that were happening became the dominant narrative thread. He then went on to suggest even more that it ought to be possible to make a play with no dialogue in it whatsoever.
But this is something, Andrew Sachs, that you'd already thought of.
Well, yes, in 1963 about. I wrote it as an idea then.
Why?
Well, because I thought that very often in radio plays people seem to never stop talking, and I thought well, it would be quite nice to have something other than talk that tells a story.
I mean, radio is about sounds, isn't it? Which, I mean, includes words and music, but the sounds themselves are equally important, and which is why we recorded The Revenge on location and used the natural sounds that happened at the time. And there are no effects records or anything like that. The sounds are real.
Yeah.
And, of course, there are 11 actors in the cast.
Yes, but they are very subsidiary characters. I mean, the whole narrative thread is carried by Andrew as the principal character in the play. And it's important that we realise that the microphone is with him and with his adventure from the beginning of the play to its climax.
Right. And also, I think we should explain this isn't the start of a series of plays without words, is it?
No, it certainly is not. Radio is a medium where the word is all important. The word has so much power. Of course not.
It's odd that people ask me, well, how can you possibly do it, write a play without words? And yet it's so simple, really. If you have the sound of a man walking down the street, you can tell from that whether he's got a limp, whether he's got a wooden leg, whether he's stumbling over something, whether he's running, whether he's at peace with the world or whatever. It tells you so much without the use of a single word.
I was at an international meeting of the heads of drama in Basel, and I told them about The Revenge, about this play without words. And they became enormously excited and said, well, would you let me see the script? And I said, well, the script is a funny thing, you know, it's a sort of series of stage instructions. And it wasn't until after that meeting was over that I thought to myself, well, I don't have to send them a script at all. I could send them a recording because it will go in any language.
Yes, there's certain things, I suppose, that are local. For instance, dialing for the police, dialing 999 is a very British thing, and perhaps somebody in Japan, if they want the police, has to dial, I don't know what they dial.
But The Revenge does require fairly concentrated listening, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
This is why I think listeners should listen in as quiet a room as possible, preferably with the windows closed. And if they can arrange it so they're not distracted during the 20-odd minutes the play runs, and there are as few extraneous sounds as possible, I think will help them to enjoy The Revenge as a play, which is what it is after all.
Oh, yes, it's just a very simple thriller, really.
Yeah.
But I think that what is absolutely important when you are listening to this play is to remember that implicit in the title is the theme.
Ronald Mason, Andrew Sachs, thank you very much.
The Revenge, a play for radio without words by Andrew Sachs. The Revenge, a play for radio without words, was written by Andrew Sachs, who also played the man. Others taking part were Graham Ashley, Sean Barrett, Michael Deacon, Blaine Fairman, Leonard Fenton, Francis Jeter, Fraser Carr, Melody Lang, Paul Rosebery, and John Rye. Technical realization was by Lloyd Silverthorne. The play was directed by Glyn Dearman.